Hello, my name is Dr. Johanna Loehr and I'm doing a postdoc here at GIFT. Today I want to talk about using Q method to explore community perspectives on the future of tourism in the South Pacific. I'll present some preliminary results of our linkage project, and I want to acknowledge the other team members that are part of the team. Chris is here today, and also in particular Maritha Stevens from Fiji. There's been a lot of talk recently about the need for tourism to transform. Transformation is a process and it refers to significant change. But how do we achieve such change? We draw on ideas generated from systems thinking and the concept of leverage points, which suggests that in order to achieve transformational change, we need to go beyond simply reacting to events and instead address the underlying system structures. And that can be done by assessing the goals of the current system and then redefining them based on our priorities and think about how success should be defined. In tourism, a shift has been observed from serving the visitor and defining success in narrow economic terms to generating more holistic outcomes to the host communities. To inform this shift, the first research question of our project looks at what local people's priorities are for the future of tourism in the Loehr Group of Fiji. We do that by applying Q methodology, which focuses on gaining a holistic understanding of the viewpoints of people, whereby people with similar viewpoints are grouped through factor analysis to identify dominant discourses within the sample. These are then interpreted in a qualitative way. Q is facilitated by asking participants to sort statements, in our case tourism outcomes, onto a map taking the shape of a quasi-normal distribution. So that means participants sort statements in relative importance to each other. Participants can resort statements as often as they want, and at the end they're asked some open-ended questions to justify their choices. We ended up with 34 statements or tourism outcomes, which were developed starting off with a review of tourism priorities and existing strategies. We conducted interviews and then went through a process of refinement that was informed by feedback from our partners, as well as a pilot test in Fiji. Our local research associate in the Loehr Group of Fiji then administered the Q across two islands, one being home to a high-end luxury resort, and the other one being the location of the local community, of which some members work at the resorts and others didn't. So we collected 47 Q sorts across these two islands. Our results identified 3 dominant discourses on the outcomes people would like from tourism in the future. These are represented by what we call an ideal sort, what you see here. But to make interpretation easier, we also categorized outcomes, and that's what I'll focus on when I share some of the results now. So people associated with the first discourse prioritized economic outcomes, such as tourism contributing to the national economy and tourism benefiting local people financially. There's other outcomes that were important, like environmental outcomes, but if we look at the actual statements, they still reflect the transactional value of tourism, like funding conservation, for example. Less important to this group were health and safety and community outcomes, like tourism being respectful of local decision-making. People in this group were more likely to be from the resort island, and they were generally older. People associated with the second discourse also believed the same economic outcomes to be really important, but in addition, they prioritized outcomes that reflect stability and resilience, like tourism helping the community to recover from shocks and helping the community to adapt to climate change. Less important to this group were cultural and social outcomes, like tourism promoting gender equality or encouraging visitors to learn about the local culture. Overall, participants associated with this group had representatives from both islands, and they were generally older as well. Participants associated with the third discourse again prioritized the same economic outcomes, but in addition, people in this group prioritized outcomes reflecting inclusion and culture. For example, in tourism empowering marginalized people and involving the community in tourism planning and management. Less important to this group were infrastructure outcomes, environmental outcomes, and climate change outcomes. And people in this group were more likely to be from the local community, and they tended to be younger as well. So, did we expect these outcomes? Actually, not so much. The resort involved in this study is highly engaged in conservation activities in the Loehr group, and so we expected environmental outcomes to be a lot more important. However, our results show that there was a strong agreement across all groups of the importance of environment and economic outcomes. People want tourism to generate a cash income, and because tourism is seen as an easier type of job. We found Q method a suitable approach in this context because it provides everyone within the community with an opportunity to voice their views, even those traditionally excluded from decision making, like young people and women. Q is a little bit time consuming, but participants described it as engaging and fun. So in conclusion, the results of our study highlight that there was no outcomes that were unimportant to all groups, highlighting the need for holistic planning to minimize trade-offs and to ensure that certain outcomes are not achieved at the cost of others. In terms of future steps for our projects, we have conducted the Q across several other case study destinations in the Pacific, and we're currently analysing the results to see if priorities change based on people's experience with tourism. We're also developing further research activities together with our partners that look at how some of those priority outcomes and this holistic planning can be achieved. So stay tuned for that. Thank you. I look forward to your questions.